Hello everybody, this is Mr. RC Manchild himself, Don Severns. Today I'm bringing you a review on Horizon's newest quadcopter, the Blade 350QX. Now this 350QX is actually pretty feature-packed. It comes with a GPS sensor, a barometer, and a magnetometer all on board. When you put that data together, you can actually get some very sophisticated flight modes. So I picked up the Ready to Fly package. Now the Ready to Fly package came with a standard 2200 3-cell LiPo, a battery charger, which is a pretty basic one, but it does the job, and then a DX5E transmitter. Now this is a custom DX5E transmitter that has a 3-position switch on board. That is essential to be able to get into all 3 flight modes. So if you have an old DX5 or an older DX6, you will not be able to get into all 3 of your flight modes. You need a 3-position switch. Remember that. So the 3-position switch is good for getting you into Smart Mode, Stability Mode, and Agility Mode. Now Smart Mode is, we'll call it Dummy Mode. It's really good for beginners because anyone can fly this. No matter what orientation the craft is, if you push the stick forward, it goes away from you. If you pull it back, it comes towards you. Now that's all possible because of the onboard magnetometer telling the craft what direction it's facing. Now another really interesting thing about this Smart Mode is how they control the altitude. Altitude is no longer power-based, it's purely altitude-based. So when you're pushing your throttle up, you're not just giving it more power to gain altitude, you're telling it exactly what altitude to go to. So it's sort of a linear altitude. So there are certain positions on your stick that literally correspond to an altitude in reality. It's a very different feel. I've actually never seen this on any other craft. So it's actually really interesting. It basically holds its altitude completely by itself. So it takes a little bit to get used to, but if you've never flown before, it's going to feel actually fairly normal to you. So that's Smart Mode. Basically, you don't have to think. You can just fly. Now, downside to Smart Mode, you don't really learn a whole lot. Everything about it is it differs from what a standard quadcopter, hexcopter, octocopter, airplane, helicopter, it's different from any of that. So if you want to buy this to truly learn how to fly, Smart Mode will get you into the air, but it's not going to teach you what you need to know to fly a more advanced craft. So keep that in mind. Stability Mode, the mode that I fly in most of the time, it's basically what the DJI would call GPS mode. Now, the GPS mode runs a position hold all the time, so when you let go of the sticks, it will maintain its position in space. Downside, it does not use the altimeter, it does not use the barometer on board to maintain its altitude. Now that's a pretty big downside because if you're flying first-person view, if you're flying really anything with a camera on board, most of the time you want it to hold its altitude and position. This will only hold its position. But it is a normal orientation where your red props up front, when you push forward, that will always tip down and go forward. So that's a standard orientation in Stability Mode. Agility Mode, or Manual Mode as I would call it, is generally for only the most advanced pilots. It takes quite a bit to control. There is no auto level to it. So when you kick it to the side, it will continue drifting that direction at that angle until it hits the ground or goes sky high. So you need to counteract every maneuver that you put in. So it takes some time to learn, but it's very easy to do if you've spent a lot of time on a fixed pitch or a collective pitch helicopter. So those are the 3 flight modes that you need that specific 3-position switch to get into. Now let's go into some pros and cons that I found about this craft. Pros, it's very stable. It really does fly surprisingly well. They definitely spent a lot of time on these algorithms to get it to hold its position and its altitude. Even in moderate wind, it does pretty good. So it's very stable. It's very easy to fly. That Smart Mode, it's genius the way that they designed it. It will hold you back in the future if you keep to it and only keep to it, but it certainly gets a lot of people up and flying and into the hobby, which is awesome. The fail-safe switch is great. It's really, really good. Very, very good. Easy to access, especially on the Ready to Fly. You just pull in that trainer switch on the very back and it instantly goes into return to home and will come all the way back and land itself where it first took off. You could be doing some ridiculous maneuvers and get completely lost. You pull the chicken switch and it comes all the way back. So they did that very, very well. It comes with the camera mount for the GoPro and an isolator, which is very important to get the vibration out of the shot. So that's all actually included, which is fantastic. The price point is actually very good. You know, it's cheaper than a Phantom, which is probably its main competitor, and it's not as serious of a machine as the Phantom. The Phantom's not all that serious of a machine either, but it is actually still a fairly good competitor to it. Can't lift quite as much. It's a little bit sort of smaller in its bulk, but still a very good price point for what it is. It's very efficient, actually. It's getting 10 minutes and occasionally plus flight time, so at 2200, which is actually very, very good. And it comes with extra props. So that's some of the pros. Downsides, and there are a few. If you're serious into filming or you're serious into multi-rotors, you would buy this as an entertainment purpose. This would not be a workhorse. So it's some of the things that kind of bug me. They use a lot of very custom designed things for it. The propellers, they're fairly weak. They have a tendency to crack. If you look on the forums, a lot of people have had problems with broken propellers. I've yet to experience this, so I wouldn't let it shy you away from the product. But the propellers are proprietary, so you cannot install a upgraded propeller, a carbon fiber propeller, any other propeller you cannot install on this craft. Now I'm currently working on an adapter to be able to bolt on there that's going to be aluminum, very inexpensive, but that could come out sometime in the near future. So there will be future upgrades for this that aftermarket companies will make. So that's also shouldn't be a deal breaker, but it is kind of unfortunate that they used a very custom design for their props. Also, the motors are very custom designed, so you can't bolt an upgrade motor on there. This is all, you know, pretty big downside stuff. There's not a lot of upgrade potential at this point. Granted, in the future there will be, but at this point there really is not. Another thing that I really don't like is instability mode, which I fly in most. The lack of altitude hold is kind of a big deal for me, because when I'm flying around any NASA-based quad or my Phantom, having that altitude hold really it's really nice. It really helps a lot. Now, probably the main thing that bothers me about this is disarming the motors. When you come down and land manually, when you drop your throttle all the way to the bottom, your motors will continue to spin just as if you armed it. And they will not stop spinning. There is no timer. There is no limit position. It's literally you bring the throttle all the way down and they will not stop spinning. The only way to stop spinning them is 4 clicks down on the throttle trim, and then you got to go 4 clicks back up to rearm the speed controls. That's a bit of an annoyance. I don't really understand how they didn't get around that. It's a little bit of a safety concern. If you have a bad takeoff, the thing wants to flip over. If the accelerometers don't catch it quick enough, you could end up with the prop spinning in grass or on dirt or, you know, around people. So getting to that trim is a little awkward at times. Now that's on the ready to fly. If you have a more sophisticated controller, you can set up a throttle cut button, but still, you drop the throttle, you hit a button to get your props to stop. Really not a standard thing. So overall, I'm fairly impressed. For the price point, I think they did a very good job. It's all fairly well designed, fairly efficient, can carry the camera, doesn't have a ton of power. I really don't see this as a mainstream alternative to the Phantom unless you're intending to only carry a camera. Do not buy this with intention to load up a big brushless gimbal and a whole bunch of FPV gear. It's not a heavy lifter by any means. Does not mean it can't be in the future with upgraded motors, speed controls, propellers, and so on. But at this point, stock, its limited weight lifting would be the camera holder, and the 2200. I wouldn't go past that, or you're going to be stressing the props, stressing the motor, stressing everything. So overall, a very impressive product put out by a pretty impressive company that actually backs their products up a lot better than most of the other companies. So I'm very happy with my blade. It's definitely going to stay in the fleet of multi-rotors that I have growing. So thank you very much for watching the review. I hope it helped you out and it makes your decision making a little bit easier. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, thumbs up the video, and have a fantastic day, guys. Take care.